Welcome to BAM's Food Fight from Amsterdam. I'm Phil Lang, the music director of Bricks & Mortar Media, and tonight marks the final episode of our current program. We're going to look at music production tonight, more specifically live recording versus track recording. Now, live recording is when you bring a band into a room and you hit record and everyone's taking the same take. And you just look for the best performance of the song. Whereas tracking, the drums are recorded separately, the guitars are recorded separately, the vocals are recorded separately, and so on. And you take the best takes of each element and you put them together on the same song. Totally different philosophies towards recording a song and trying to get the best take. We're going to see the pros and cons of both sides tonight. So sit back and enjoy. And also Nicholas Kloy providing the wine. He is the wine man in Amsterdam. So just a quick thank you and check it out. Both places. If you're in Amsterdam, you need to make stops at both these places.
Well, obviously, if you're recording a band live, then they're all playing together, and you immediately get the groove of the band and the feel of the whole music. Whereas, if you do it all layer for layer for layer, then it gets in this rigid fashion. And like if you do an overdub, I do overdubs as well for bands, but most of the time when somebody is first played with the whole band and then suddenly goes in there with the headphones on and does his extra riff or lick or whatever, they're always ahead of time, I find. And because they're not seeing the rest of their bandmates play.
Right.
So the whole timing is completely different, and they're all like, I gotta be on time, I gotta be tight and all that stuff, and so it's a completely different feel.
Right.
I think especially the focus and the fact that you can see each other play and and the sweat and all that stuff and just the vibe. Get into that rehearsal studio first and then get it down in the studio and you're done.
Right.
Well, I think the mistake you do at the beginning is to walk in thinking, I know how to do the song.
Yeah.
Because when you're tracking in a studio and you think, I know how to do the song, it's going to be square and that's it.
Well, as a singer-songwriter, I think it's essential to do it that way. It's like if you're like a band, like a 5-piece band, it's still different if you're a guy on a piano or a guitar.
Let's jump to on this side.
So the live feels also always good because if you play live, I think the musicians are a little less tensed because everyone's playing.
Yeah.
But if you have a drum and a bass recorder, it's tight, and now you're the guitar player. Okay, hit it. Like you're a little bit saying, you just think about I have to be on that tight spot. Yeah. You're not going with the flow of the whole band.
Yeah.
So it's a different approach in what you want to hear at the end. Because a live recording you can also do at a gig. For instance, just record it. Okay, the environment is different and it's difficult to make.
There's plenty of shitty live recordings.
Of course, I know what you mean.
With playing live, the visual thing is very important too.
Of course. For instance, if you make a live recording and someone makes a mistake, what are you going to do? Everybody starting all over, or just take the mistakes from the guy who's made the mistake? So you already start a little bit overdubbing, shaping. So there's a kind of how do you say, threshold.
It's not yes or no, there's a whole line, because in fact what we're talking about already, you split it up into one after the reason why you're recording, you want to make something that's very smooth and you have an idea, you're doing it with a click or whatever. On the other side, you've got live recording in a live gig, which is like the real, the worst situation where you've got to get it right and that's it. And in between you have live recording in a studio, which is what you're talking about. Something that I also do on the radio, what I was doing today. I love it. Halfway between live and studio work, because you're on the radio, so you're playing live, so you can't do it again. So it's a gig, it's a live thing. But you're in a studio environment because you can make a really nice sound. Yeah. So it's on that gradation, let's say. It's not quite a live gig.
Exactly.
But it's not really sitting in a studio where you can maybe say, oh, that was not really good, do that, I'll take it again, So I think there's gradations.
The problem is where this starts when you want to make it live.
Yes.
And you say, well, everything's okay. The bass was not okay. Then the bass player is starting to overdub to make a new track and playing along with the. So.
But
where's the border?
But if you compare it to painting, which I always think the visual side of it, if you compare those things, I saw a program of Picasso working on a piece, and I mean these people didn't just paint huge frescoes or things out of their heads. They made drawings behind it with grids, which is what we use for click tracks since the 81 and the concept of MIDI. So it's there. You use it as posts. I mean, I think of the metronome as actually posts along a fence, and in between the posts you're doing this,
Right.
And actually, when you have done that, I mean, you look at posts on a field, you see they're all sort of done, and there's a cow against it, or it's moved. So after a while, what you started with the points of the metronomic beat.
It's a guideline.
It's only a guideline.
But it's not necessarily that your guideline is a click track. It could be a real drummer with real feel.
Indeed,
So
it can be that.
what's underneath the basic doesn't have to be very computer-like. It can be
that's
live.
When you're doing live drums with like a bass player, which I think is really important. If you do like a funk track, so it's really important when this track by Carly Simon called Why, which has a bass line by Bernard Edwards from Chic, which is like the most genius bass line ever. And it's so important that the bass line falls with the kick. Right, so like imagine this drummer looking in the eyes of Bernard Edwards and like sweating and like doing this jam and like there's just magic happening. I just know like I gotta get that feel of the bass line hitting the kick, like, and you can still have like the drum as a if you're doing an overdub of that bass line on the same drum track. It's just like you're just trying to figure out what the timing of the drummer is, but you're never gonna figure it out because it's completely random. It's like completely.
I don't agree on that.
Well, why
I don't agree
not?
on that.
All right.
Because I think that
Maybe I was getting too romantic.
Yep. No.
Go ahead.
It's possible. Obviously, we're talking about the feel, and it's these two opposite things of like when you're in the zone.
Right.
Now we're all musicians.
Yeah.
You're getting in it. You're not thinking. You're just doing.
Exactly.
You're just feeling that thing, and you go, "Oh, right on." That's it. And of course, when you're playing with someone, when you've got a drummer and a bass player there, and they're really clicked in there, then it's just like, whoa, this is it. Magic tape. You sit back in your room, and go, well, I don't have to do anything.
Yeah.
Is it on? Oh shit, I haven't recorded it. That's magic. That is magic. That's cool. But I do believe that if you recorded the drummer and the bass player separately, or the bass player messes up, something like that.
Right. You can still get.
You can come back in because if you play a tape and it's going around, you get into it, then you feel and it's something. If you do it like 3 or 4 times, you start to realise like on the fourth measure, he's just pulled back a bit. Mental note.
Right.
You pull back as well.
And you get into his zone.
You get into his zone. It's recorded, but you can fall in with that zone. And I think when you start as a musician, you end up not thinking about it. You just feel it.
We're talking about it being kind of a double-edged sword where you go in and you do something that's highly produced and you can either make it really, really great or you can really fuck it up really quickly. And I guess I'll just say this and leave it to you guys. That writing a song or recording a song, it's so fragile that it really is important to make the right decision on how to record it.
So maybe it's what I talked before. You were in a rehearsal room. You think, well, it sounds nice.
Mm-hmm.
You start going to a studio. Everything sounds better, and you hear the different parts on itself. And suddenly you think, hey Pete, what are you doing on the drums? We rehearsed for 3 months, but what the hell are you doing? So they start arguing about.
Always play that.
Well, don't.
So that's what can happen. Or the drum is suddenly what I told you sounding that great or fat. It has influence on the rest of the arrangement. You think, wait a minute. Now it's when you were in a rehearsal room, you were the bass player.
Couldn't hear shit anyway.
You're pulling on the drummer, Come on. And now the drum is standing, and you say, well, okay, this is different. You know, so strange things can happen. Always, when musicians go into a studio, mainly for the first step, they see all the capabilities, all the things that you can do. Wait a minute, wait, you can do that too? Yes. Hey, should we do this? And they start getting all kinds of ideas, so they're getting off track. They're losing their original idea.
Yeah, but
But if they hear more,
Right.
they think, well, maybe we can do it. They can't.
Well, that's where the producing skills
Exactly.
come in, of the
of course,
engineer
of
or
course.
the producer, if there is a.
because what if those guys are like
Yeah.
just a few punks from Hackney Wick, you know,
Yeah.
like 19 years old? Like, how are you gonna? And they're talented, so how are you gonna channel those guys into a realized potential? Because I mean, I don't have that discussion at all. Because like we're a small label, we do everything ourselves and we produce everything ourselves. And our constant discussion is about, you know, how to make electronic music interesting live, like get rid of the laptop act, you know. It's a different discussion, but yeah, like.
No, but I find it an interesting discussion because it's the other side of the recording.
So yeah, we think from out the click track. So that's what.
Yeah, and classic bands, or old-fashioned or whatever, acoustic bands, think from the non-click track side.
Because like what we use, like electronic music, in the way we produce mostly like computer is the center, but we use a lot of like analog output gear, old EQs, old mixers from the 70s, 60s, old preamps, old tape delays, stuff like that. So that's our production mostly. We have one band, which is a four-headed band. So that was our first encounter with recording a band. But turning our like Paul Bowman, for instance, which is one guy who produced a very, very beautiful, like dreamy pop album or EP, and is currently producing an album. To take him to a stage was really hard. Like first we tried with a band, didn't really work because it's you know, you're just trying to compete with the album sound, which is sampled drums, which is, you know, all those kind of.
It's not the same.
It's not the same thing.
Yeah.
So what we tried to do is what we did now, which we're finally getting somewhere, is we use without getting nerdy, we use few synths that we sync live. Laptop is out of the way. The only thing going on is controlling the synth parameters and the voice parameters, and creating a visual show existing out of like 16 LED bars that can be controlled from out Ableton.
So it's turning out into be a totally different kind of idea from like I say, a classic, if I can say, kind of band.
Yeah.
You know, you're going from the other side of the coin, which
Yeah.
is possible these days. You know,
Right.
and I even find it's great to hear you talking about trying to eradicate the laptop from stage.
Amen.
As if it's had its day, you know. It's
Yeah.
like it's a bit old-fashioned to do that.
Yeah.
We've never in the last
Exactly,
10
yeah.
we've seen the last 10 years. We've seen the
Yeah.
actually by Ronnie Sides, what we were talking about before.
Right.
He was the first one to kind of do that,
Right,
and
yeah.
we've all seen that
Yeah,
how
but you
boring it can be with just people with their faces in
Checking their emails,
Yeah.
But you just want to, I want Lou Reed back on stage, but I want it to be possible with I'd happy to see my artists like almost die in their own puke. Like I love them. You know? I just want them to be artists, but I mean, I want to see that emotion live on stage, and I don't want to see
But
them
it's
hiding
interesting.
behind it.
It's interesting what you say, because we're talking about studio live recording.
Thank you.
But if you go that way, you take your studio to the stage.
Right.
So
Yes.
you put in a sequence and I
Yeah.
think, well, okay,
Yeah,
what
no.
you're doing. It's not that you can't do that, but
No, it's exactly the point.
you're missing the dynamics. You know, you think, well, okay, why I set my laptop and put a play and play it, because why
Well,
should
there
I be there?
There are options, but that's what we're trying to figure out here.
Chemical Brothers, I've seen them I've not seen them live, but I've seen them on video
Yeah.
doing their live stuff. And it's not the sort of music I listen to normally, but man, I was taken by that shit. And they had stuff that they were looping, and that they were mixing it. They were being what we are being behind the behind the
Right.
desk. So and it was really killer. It was really exciting. And there's a good reason why they're highest on the bill on a weekend in England there. So you can do it. It's what you're saying. How do you do it? And you can't do it. It was saying how you can kill it. So you just basically put a CD and you can mime to it or sing over the top. I mean, it works as well. In this year, what I see with the ASG, with the Amsterdam Songwriters Guild, is that, and I feel it myself. This year, it seems like they want to go further. It's not just like a singer with a guitar. It's like, okay, it's nice, but done. What do you do more?
Right.
Like in the last couple of years. There's been different variations of that acoustic thing, but also people like what I'm saying with the radio show that I do. Every week we have like 2 artists that come along and they do an hour. They do 4 songs each,
Right.
And we've had the singer-songwriters, but we've also had guys come along with what's it? The men behaving badly. 4 of them, and they had acoustic guitars, and then they had also like loop machines, and then they had like synths and stuff like that, and they were building it all up, and they were building it on some songs they were building on loops, and some songs they were not building on loops, they were doing just live acoustic drums, so they were mixing the whole stuff together.
Well, what about like James Blake or Tom York?
He's exactly the thing going on this year, James Blake.
I mean, it seems like when you just have a 4-track, like, I need to make something good out of this, then you work harder to make something good because you have very clearly defined, and now you have you have unlimited plugins, and you don't have to pay for the tape, and it's just do over. These are all factors that weigh into like creative decisions, actually.
There are no more limitations these days, but I kind of do find it refreshing a lot of times when I do have like to reinstall the recording computer, to install it with the barest minimum, and just deal with that. It's actually more fun than to just have all this stuff and like get lost in it, especially, and also the acts that come in. I often just give them one toy, like when there's like a lull in the recording process, I give them one toy, like, hey, well, how about this? And then they go mad with like, Space Echo or whatever, or like a crash drum, or it's great. And then, suddenly all these ideas come out instead of just going like staring at the screen, like, let's try this, and then it's endless, there's this big black hole that it's really hard to get out of.
So as a producer or engineer, you withhold.
I restrain, yes.
Absolutely.
The trouble is, because it's so easy, people start making the songs themselves, but the computer's making their songs, and that's the biggest problem. It's too easy sometimes. We got a beat. You start with easy, you find the first beat is already fine. Nice, sounds good. What are you going to do with it?
But what if you can't play the piano? But what if you can't play?
Well, I think that gets into. Or go ahead. I'm sorry.
No.
Anybody can play the piano.
It's true. Anyone.
We've gotten into this gray area. We started tonight.
Do they want to?
When you guys came in,
Space Echo.
we were looking at RJDJ.
There you go.
Right.
Right.
And
Interesting artist.
really, all of a sudden, it's becoming very gray on what a musician is.
Yeah.
And what are the skills required to be a musician?
You're talking about sampling, right?
Sampling. I mean, the fact that you can make mixes on an iPhone. I don't know. I don't know whether to be excited by it or scared shitless. I don't know.
Come on, it's 2011, guys. Come on, we got to be. A musician is anyone who makes music with a bit of a stick. He's a musician, Right. Fuck that old shit of like, oh, he's not a musician because he only plays with samples. That's 10 years ago. That's 15 years ago. It's not anymore. It's like you have jazz musicians who play like, oh man, I wish I could play like that. And you've got like sample players, and you've got like DJs, and you've got, I don't know what the hell they're called these days, but there are guys that have got different interface machines that they've actually strapped together, and they've carved out an MPDR thing, and they're musicians too.
The thing is, what's the source? If the source is the technique,
No, the
or are you the source and you're in charge of the technique?
Yes.
And a lot of
you
people
just
think this is what's possible, so I'm going to take everything out of the computer. So
also, a lot of people can enjoy music, and it's not for putting out, and that's a different sort of group. Then there's masses of people who can now enjoy putting stuff together from loops, and I mean, it's not my thing, it's possibly not our thing, but they can do that, but it's not really going to come out. And if they show more talent in something of putting loops together, because I don't get the idea of loops things. I'd like to try it, but there are guys out there taking loops from places and making loops from stuff and mash up, and they make music. They make stuff which is interesting, new, different to listen to. There's lots of crap, but there's lots of crap guitar players as well, acoustic guitar singer-songwriters.
Are they arrangers or are they songwriters though? I mean, or does that shit matter? Because that, to me...
Eventually a songwriting is arranging as well, because you don't just write a song, like you just said, you don't just take a little beat, you arrange the song as well. Yeah. So you are an arranger as well.
And you see that when it's easy to make a kind of song, like in rap and hip-hop, you got people with another goal in music. You see, so for a while you show a hip-hop rap music, there were guys who just won't show up. Because the music was not the issue anymore. It's just a way of putting yourself somewhere.
I don't agree with that.
Not in everything. Like Public Enemy and all the kind.
The reason for the classics is limitation, like I don't know, like Homework by Daft Punk to like which is computed music, which is probably a very, very much give and take process. Like the fact that Roland installed an arpeggiator on a specific synth. I mean, it's completely Roland.
Right.
But they arranged it in such a way that made me feel like this track is like insane. If I hear like I don't know, Around the World in the club, it's insane. It's just huge and it will forever be a classic. But so like all the sources, like the real sources are so much mixed up that you can't really say who invented a certain idea of doing like an arpeggio on a synthesizer. Probably came from some Japanese guy who wanted to make a classic composition on a synthesizer. But so it's just taking the photo camera and taking like when did someone decide you can like photos are art instead of documentation? Like it's the same thing. Right. And I think it will always continue, and we will always take. Like I'm 22 years old. I look at like the 80s as a different universe. So you were all there, and I wasn't. So I lost. So it's kind of it'll always be. Like 1983 will always be my favorite musical year.
Why?
It's because you weren't there.
Because I weren't there. Yeah, exactly.
What the hell happened in 1983 that I wasn't
around? What did I miss?
Everything happened.
Everything like...
Can you tell us?
Yeah, oh my god, like so many good tracks come from it. It's insane. Like BWH, Stop, which is a great Italo track.
Do you know it?
So yeah, it's really rare.
Pretty.
A Mandolier, like very rare Mandolier.
It's the Human League from '83.
Human League has, I think Human League released, I think Human League released Don't You Want Me from.
It's 81.
Is it 81? So you're better at that for me. Well, maybe.
The strange thing is it's the area where they started with synths just before, and they were not quite capable to make real good samples. So everything's
it's just
and that's maybe the new vintage sound,
right.
I understand.
The thing is, the important thing is I'm not trying to recreate '83. The important thing is I'm trying to channel it to something.
The music was always depending on what's available.
Right.
Due to the instruments.
Right. Well, Keith Richards, his signature sound is an acoustic guitar being blown out of a shitty little recorder. And that's like the sound that everyone wants.
That's
and
why
the fact is because he was recording in a bathroom and they went to the studio and they said, well, that's not the same. What did you do there? Well, I just had the gain up to
so it's a limitation
10.
Or something.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right. I don't know where this has gone, but it's interesting nonetheless. So who gives a shit?
Limit yourself.
Let's hear it.
Well, I was going to say.
Let's hear. I'd like to hear from Remko here.
Yeah, no, I said it before. Just limit yourself to only a few tools, and then you come up with. You said it in the intro, and then you come up with. You have to work harder to actually make the song interesting.
For me, it's different. It's hard to limit myself because I know what's possible. So. It's kind of like maybe it's more discipline for me to limit myself, but it's hard because I know there's this plugin for this and there's a plugin for that. So
you know what? I think it's also different people on the different parts of the curve because we're older and we've gone through all of that shit, and we've gone through like, I want to do everything and blow everything out, and so we can limit ourselves. I mean, every time I just bought out some new equipment myself, and I'm thinking, should I need this or not? It's like, fuck it, I'm going to buy it, I'm going to try it, I'm going to see whether it's interesting, and then I'm going to throw it out if I don't need it, you know? And for you, you're just kind of starting, and it's just like, hey, it was my first, and now compared to 1980, I mean, there is all this stuff. It's either in software form, like compressors from the 70s and reverbs and all those things that cost millions of thousands of dollars, which you can now get free or pay with. And thereby bringing back the real equipment as well, which is also interesting. I mean, yesterday, I'll tell you, I bought a very X acoustic, and it's got like 16 different guitars in it, and everyone goes, no, that's not really good. But it's a way of learning, just like the software is a way of learning the hardware.
Right.
And you go,
where does the button come from? Yeah.
Exactly, where does that sound come from? And you go, and then you want to go and buy the real thing.
And there's this credibility thing. There's this credibility thing of, like, and I'm only speaking from San Francisco scene, but
small town.
Well, if you
the best disco scene ever.
But it's like you're only legit if you're recording it, on tape, or you have the actual, like you're saying, not the plug-in, but the actual piece of equipment, like that gives you more credibility somehow.
Yeah.
And it's kind of this status thing,
Let me redo this solo. I know I can do it. Now come on, let me just try. Let me just go another, and then you end up recording. If you give guitarists a chance to lay their solos down, you can just put it on loop recording and come back in 2 hours, and they're still at it.
They don't know what's best for them, and most.
They all want to be Jimi Hendrix.
And they want it to be perfect, everything perfect. Who cares? Make a little mistake, make it human. Don't make it perfect.
Why should they make it perfect? I should say.
That's a good question, because recording live has also a kind of cult thing, and it's a little bit not hip, but it should be live, blah blah blah. But you can also think in a way of, wait a minute, I'm an artist and I want the best performance. And as I mentioned, look into the mirror. What am I offering? I have to think about what am I offering. Am I that special? What am I doing that's so special? Why should people listen to me? So the goal is not recording live, rehearsing live, but listen. What am I doing?
A lot of musicians don't care what they're doing. They just I just want to play, and then people around them are like, no, you're great. They're really shy. Jimi Hendrix is really shy. A lot of musicians are really shy, so. It takes two different kinds.
Yes.
Like Madonna is not. Madonna goes, she's the one that goes out there.
Hendrix was a kind of Madonna, because he did all kinds of very strange stuff with sounds, performing. He set his guitar on fire. So there was a way of he wants to expose himself.
He wasn't looking in the mirror.
No.
Exactly. And the thing is that when I'm thinking looking in the mirror, and I think, there's a spot.
No.
He experienced a burst.
Take that mirror away.
He had an inside mirror. He had an inside mirror. He took the mirror inside.
I was going to say he's using he's using the mirror for a different purpose.
Is it necessary that an artist is in a way different than the audience?
Well, actually, the artist, you're talking about self-bewusstsein. What's that in English?
Consciousness.
Self-conscious. Consciousness, conscious of oneself. And what you're saying is that when you're playing, you're not conscious of yourself. When you are in that zone, I think we can all agree, is that you are not, you're not yourself. You're not there. You're somewhere else. You're playing this thing. You're going, who the hell's playing this? And it's, whoa, it's my fingers. Don't know what's going on here.
Just get the hell out of the way. Right?
Yeah, you get that. And you're not yourself. So you're not looking in the mirror at all. And that is this is the juxtaposition.
But why? In what kind of way are you exposing yourself to an audience? Why do you want them to listen to you?
Good question. And I've been thinking about this for years for myself, and how you do it. As a songwriter, last year I was testing out for me, the real crux of it is writing a new song, getting the buzz off a new song. For me, that's where I'm sort of zoned out, and I'm like, what happened? Just somewhere else, and it comes out, and you capture it. And you go, that's amazing. That's what I want to say. I want to share that with the audience. I've been doing like I said, the living room concerts, which I think in America is also a bit of a rage.
Yeah.
And yeah,
I've been there, and there was
Live in your living room?
live in your living room.
Right.
Yeah. It's just really great because you really are just in the living room. There's someone sitting on the sofa couch, and there's 20 people sitting in front of you, like from the distance that we are.
Yeah.
And it's like 100 years ago. That's how they did it, because they didn't have amplification, because there wasn't any electricity. So it's the people. It's the connection with the people, and you have to really, you don't have to do a big old dance hall thing, but it's just intimate, or it can be fun. And what I did as an experiment was to say, okay, this morning I've got this great idea as a kind of a song. Tonight I've got maybe an idea of where the lyrics are going to go. I'm going to do it for the first time ever in front of an audience where I've never played it for myself. So it's really like writing a song on stage in front of people. That's cool.
I like that.
And it was really, really great, because I got the buzz because I'm writing a new song and I'm making up the lyrics, but I'm not just making any old shit up. I'm trying to get in the zone. I'm putting the pressure on myself to get in the zone whilst I'm in front of a house full of people.
So it's like improv comedy.
That works.
Put yourself, kick them out there and close the door and figure it out.
But you see, the smaller audiences so a lot of artists maybe think like in the long tail of the book, we take a smaller piece of the audience, because the whole music industry is different now. So maybe it's more difficult to get to the big masses, but I take my piece of the cake.
The feeling, whether it's lost in live or the fact of the matter is, being a musician, making a living as a musician, it is kind of like being a professional football player or a professional baseball player. You know what? There's this many people that make it, and that many people represent the image for the whole group.
That's true.
And so it's highly, highly competitive, I guess is what I'm saying. I'm just playing devil's advocate here, but isn't perfection a prerequisite almost, if it's that competitive, to make yourself known, whether it's make yourself money or whatever, but to make yourself known?
Perfection is boring.
Yeah,
It's not bad.
It's a shift of
and it's expensive sometimes.
But like perfection again.
Perfection doesn't exist.
Like perfection is perfection. Let's state that perfection is imperfection, like the human aspect of music, which we all love, even in the most hard and cold electronic music. Yeah. We try to implement human aspects, whether it is I don't know, whether randomizing something, or like putting a groove into your hi-hat, which every Fruity Loop studio has built in. So it's going back to the pros of studio recording and like trying to perfect something. You just take a bass line, and your mind, like as a producer, your mind already goes through all the options you have. Like I said, it's impossible to limit myself because I don't have enough discipline for it. So when I hear a bass line, I'm thinking, right. While we're recording it in the studio, I'm thinking, right. So I can take this bass line, chop it up later in the studio, and run it through a few tape delays, a few old Dynacord preamps, like make it really vintage. I already know what I'm going to do with it. So.
But there you have, that's different.
Exactly.
Right.
You don't need those limitations.
Exactly, but still, it's a different way of. It's not like we're not ever going to make like a new Kings of Leon record, which is funny, by the way, because Kings of Leon is actually, we're doing a remix for them. Paul is a remix for them, and they're into this new thing called chill wave. Like we're currently.
Chill wave.
We're currently in that area. I'm just talking press here. Can't
pitch that shit, man.
Well, I mean, I was familiar with the term after Washed Out came with the release, which is kind of I don't know. I think it's from Colombia. So you see, like even the big bands, they're also into the lo-fi aspect of making music, and into that very limited aspect of making music. So all the bigger labels, they tend to go to I don't know why, but right now mostly European small labels get those guys over to produce a record, which is it's really common right now. Beck is doing it.
We've gone in various directions and good solid tangents about live recording versus tracking recording, and it all comes down to what people are listening to. So I mean, how are people experiencing music today?
The way of exposing through the internet is nice, but you have a lot of quantity. So you had once the website of Celeband Live, for instance. And a few years ago I talked to them and to some other people. I said, well, the problem in that way is that you give them a platform. And in the beginning it's exciting, in the first 3 bands, well nice, everyone Celeband. It's not to be negative about it, but then everybody said, well, I want to be on Celeband too. And you get 50,000 or 300,000 bands. But the audience, is the audience going through all the bands, listening, I like this, like, no. Then that people say, well no, you can go on the internet and people can listen to you. But who's going to listen to me? Who's going to find me?
Right.
So that's there has to be, you have to be thinking about how people go there. It's not a push thing, when we push it out into the internet. Now how do they get to me?
It's credibility. And once anybody and their mama can put it up on MySpace, all of a sudden there's this digital noise. Mm-hmm. You have to filter through, and I'm not afraid to say it, a lot of shit to get to the goal. And is that a good experience? I don't know. Artists come into the studio 1 month from now. What is the one thing that you will tell them to make sure that performance or that experience is good for all parties?
Practice, focus, and do your own thing. Follow your heart. Don't go like, oh yeah, that band, they're really cool, and I want to be. Well, you can steal some ideas, but don't copy shit like exactly.
Right.
I'd say with the recording instruments you can buy these days, record yourself whilst you're rehearsing and listen to it, and don't get the surprise of your life when you go in the recording studio and listen to the bass player and go, what are you playing? Like we said earlier, playing something 2 months earlier, always the same thing.
Yeah, well, I think if you want to reach a huge audience, I think you should be visual. Think of an audience like you were 14 when music reaches you, and not the other way around. Like Radiohead reached me when I was 14, not the other way around.
The first step is the recording. We got it on CD or whatever.
CD? What?
Yeah, what? That's why I'm saying it. What? That's so they listen to MP3. So it's on there somewhere. And then, who's going to listen?
Exactly.
Step 2.
And that's the question.
There is the market.
And we will end it on that as a question, because obviously this is a debate that will keep going, and that's what's great about music. You go back and forth on it, right? Constantly. I want to thank Mark, Bear, Luke, and Remko for coming. This has been just a treat to sit here and listen to people with considerable knowledge about the subject, and thank you.
Thank you.
That's going to wrap us up.